Well, thank you, everyone, and especially thank you for taking on yet another Zoom meeting in what I'm sure is a packed Zoom schedule. As Sanjeev was saying when he came in, he's exhausted from his many Zoom meetings for the day. So I really appreciate you carving out an hour for this particular topic. Now, if you're trying to reinvigorate a club or rebuild a club or take your club from good to great, you are in the right place because this is exactly the topic that you should be talking about to start to structure that type of change. And what I'm hoping to convince you of tonight is that the creating a mentorship program is actually not that complicated, and it has a huge value to your club. So this is a very worthwhile thing to be doing. So tonight we're going to cover the brilliant opportunity that is a mentorship program. I want to convince you of that so that you can spread the word. I'll show you a structure for creating a strong club program, and I'll show you how District 61 is supporting how to train your mentorship team, because Tanya came up with a pretty ingenious idea that we're all working towards, and I think it'll help you quite a bit. And we'll finish up with a Q&A session. I've written 15 minutes there, but I'm happy to stay as long as people are asking questions. Now, in my own Toastmasters journey, I have met some fantastic mentors, and I've learned a tremendous amount from them. And I also belong to a club that runs a great mentorship program. So it's those learnings that I'll be sharing with you tonight. And like I said, I wanted to start with the value of the program because I think that most clubs don't jump into it because they don't understand the value of actually having a mentorship program and the great riches that come out of running it in the club. I think many see it as another thing to maybe do, but in fact, it's a very rich and diverse aspect to the Toastmasters program. And I kind of can't figure out why more clubs don't dive into it, but hopefully we'll create that change tonight. So the first important aspect of a mentorship program is that it increases your membership development and satisfaction greatly. So all of those executive meetings that you sat in going, how are we going to retain members and how are we going to inspire new members? Well, the mentorship program is the key to that. The mentorship program is also about learning techniques to create rich and supportive learning environments. Obviously, there's a lot of empathy and compassion around being a mentor and helping proteges. So as a mentor, you get to learn those incredible techniques. It's also one of the best selling points for your club. You know, back in the pre-COVID days, if a guest walked in and said, you know, tell me about Toastmasters, and you took them through the tour and you finished up with, and if you join the club, you'll be paired with a mentor who will take you through the first however many speeches. And usually you would see their eyes light up and they would say, oh, that would be amazing. You know, just have somebody help out. And the last aspect of it is you get to embrace your inner altruist. And what I mean by that is there's all kinds of positive momentum traits that you get to practice as a mentor. And in fact, if you dive into mentorship, you realize that the mentor typically learns as much or maybe even more than the protege. So it's a wonderful program to embrace and dive into. On this slide, you could easily say, Scott, there are way too many words for a PowerPoint slide on this slide. But that's exactly the point, because this is all about skills that mentors develop and get to practice as they're doing it. And the list that I came up with was actually twice as long as this, so I just jammed half of them on here. But look at some of these traits. Becoming a positive influencer or a servant leader. You'll be great at problem solving and developing resilience and adaptability, and especially patience. Believe me, patience comes into play. Compassion, empathy, practicing goal setting and planning for the benefit of another person. And you know, when I read through these traits, these are the people that I'd love to work with, or these are the people I'd love to have on a team with me. And these are the traits that I really want to be able to practice, and to be able to do it through Toastmasters, I think is absolutely spectacular. So I apologize for all the words, but there are just so many of these great positive influence traits. I think we also have to identify the need for this. And when I look at the District 61 report card, and this was from last week, of the 203 clubs, 113 of the clubs, or 56%, have only completed level 1, like a level 1 completion on their record or less. And 76 of the clubs have 0. And so what that means to me is that the new members coming into the club aren't being taught the Pathways program. They aren't being taught how to get the most out of the club environment and how to get the most out of the practice. So there's a big gap here that, again, could easily be solved with the mentorship program. So it's a huge opportunity. If we're looking at a structure for a dynamic club, it kind of breaks down into these 4 fundamentals, or these 4 foundational pieces. The first is motivational evaluations, and of course, having fun and inspiring meetings. Like, those are the type of meetings I love to go to. Great evaluations, great speeches, fun meetings. Next is club should have active educational programs, especially in the key areas of speech writing, getting past nerves, getting the most out of the meeting roles, and how to give motivational evaluations. And the fourth aspect, of course, is having a supportive mentorship program. And if you think about it, it's actually the mentorship program that helps to support these 3 other key aspects of having a great club. So the mentorship program is key to your continuous success of a club. I'm hoping I've convinced you by now, but I've got to ask the question. And so now's the time to unmute. Why don't clubs run mentorship programs? Or if you run a mentorship program, what is it that your club is tripping over that maybe we can help you to address? So anyone, just put up your hand. And Sanjeev, if you can say who's got their hand up in case I can't say. So Karen, go ahead. If you have.
One of the things that I see as a problem with creating a mentorship program is most people are almost on burnout, where there's meeting and I don't want to take on another job, because if you run a mentorship program, like I'm the chair of our mentorship committee, and it is work, and you can't deny that it's work. And so you have to have the right attitude that you know you're going to watch the growth just by creating the membership committee, and then have peer people that work with you that will take on roles so you can deal, so it's so intensive. And it just helps a little bit better, I think, to encourage people to become a mentor or a mentee coming in asking, I need help.
Yeah, sure. Burnout's got to be a key issue. So Mahari, I see you have your hand up.
And it's not just from being a coach, but it's just, it's life in general right now in COVID land.
Okay. Mihari is next.
Thanks. Mihari, go ahead.
Yes, so I believe also one of the reasons might be that members don't stay in the clubs. Like, they might stay there for maybe like a term or 2, and after they leave. So in that point, it's like, since there's like a rollover of members are less motivated to mentor others because they don't see the old members that are staying into the club.
Okay, that's a pretty important point. So the question now is, why are they leaving? But hold on to that thought. I will address it in a bit.
So we have Brian, and then Sue, then Mihari again. I think it's just Brian and Sue.
Brian, go ahead.
Simply because of lack of awareness, or a lot of clubs just don't see the value of having a mentorship program, and they don't feel that they need one, or they don't really see the benefit in having one.
Okay, great point. Sue?
Sometimes with clubs that have a lot of new members and very few experienced members, the experienced members feel taking on 2, 3, 4 people to mentor is just a little too much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have Francine next.
Right. Francine, go ahead.
Yes, hi. I feel that sometimes members don't even want to embark on taking this role simply because it's really an officer position and there's no credit for it. And I think maybe, if down the line, if TI would acknowledge it as an officer position, then I think more people may be interested in taking it on.
That's an excellent point. Okay.
So
Anybody else?
I have something.
Sure,
And
go
I think
ahead, Sanjay.
the very first person, like Karen mentioned about that is it's a lot of work. But I think it starts at the top. As long as somebody has to understand the value of what do the mentors get out of it.
Hmm.
So yes, there's work in everything we do, but if there's a benefit that we can really, show that it's worthwhile, and I think then it makes it a little bit easier to understand. Yes, there's work, but there's also a benefit.
Right. So it's that cost benefit ratio.
Great.
Isn't that your perfect? Okay.
That's my world.
That's Sanjeev's world. Does anybody have any other comments? If not, I'll head on to the next slide. I can.
One.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
Yes, Mary. Maybe also there's no propership like mentorship program that is built. There's no way to track progress to connect also mentoree and mentors.
Okay, that's a fabulous point. And that's exactly what we're going to do here tonight. So I'm glad you gave me that segue into this next segment. So now we'll talk a bit more about the structure of an extraordinary club or a great club and how we can streamline the mentorship program so it's not such an onerous thing to do and that we start to actually see that great investment and value in the thing. So I like this graphic because basically a great club is you create this extraordinary learning environment that inspires and motivates members at all levels. And they're so inspired and motivated that they keep contributing to the club, which is what makes it such a great club in the first place. And you create this cycle as this great club again goes back into creating an even better learning environment because the members are so motivated and they're learning and they're growing. And anything that we can do to support this cycle, that's something that we absolutely want to do. So you can keep that in the back of your mind. And the next thing about a club dynamic is, I know this is kind of obvious, but we should cover it before we head on to other things. New members are looking for one thing, existing members are looking for another thing. And if you can create a win that satisfies both of them, then you're going to create this positive momentum that'll take you out of some of the burnout and doldrums that you were talking about. Almost all new members are coming into the club looking to get past speaking nerves and building confidence. They usually have something specific in mind. They need it for work, or they're giving a wedding speech and they're pretty freaked out, that type of thing. So if you can tap into what the new member needs and align it with what the existing members are looking for too. So existing members had developed their communication skills. They've usually done 6, 7, 8 speeches or more. And now they're trying to align those skills with these positive influence skills or leadership skills, if you want to call them that. And so when you look at the equation this way, don't you think that a mentorship program is almost the perfect alignment to create a win-win? For existing members, they get to take their skills and communicate them in a very clear way for the benefit of the new members. And the new members love the learning, and it creates a wonderful positive momentum for them. So it's a pretty important equation to keep in the back of your mind, because basically mentorship is looking after all aspects of the club by rewarding new members and existing members at the same time. Now, here's where we start to really define what needs to be done instead of what doesn't need to be done. And this is important because when you're talking about burnout and when you're talking about people just being overwhelmed with their Toastmasters expectations, part of the reason is that we try to do way too much. And if we can just focus on the priorities, we can create great change without actually putting in this huge amount of time that basically burns people out. So if you were training a new member, these are the 6 things that you need to do. You do not need to do more than this. And so when you define this as what you need to do, and you figure out a strategy for doing this in an optimal way, you're going to save a ton of time. You're going to create a very inspired new member coming into the club who will then contribute more to the club. And who knows, maybe even will take on the mentor role a little further down the road. So let's just take a quick look at this. You're going to give them a tour of the meeting rules and the agenda. You'll discuss a few expectations and misconceptions of public speaking, and that's really important. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. You've got to give them a tour of pathways, or the paths in pathways, so they actually know which path to decide on and they feel comfortable with their decision. Unfortunately, we also have to teach them how to navigate pathways, because that website is not entirely easy to get through, especially if you're just starting out. But a little bit of helping them navigate through things, especially through Zoom, is a fabulous way to get them going. At some point, they need a tour of all of Pathways Level 1. And once they see the tour of Pathways Level 1, they'll have a pretty good understanding of how to get to that point. And the reason this is so important is because when you can take a new member through Pathways Level 1, for the most part, they will have created enough positive momentum to be inspired to get into Level 2 and beyond. So that's a pretty critical piece. And the last bit is speech writing and evaluation basics. As a mentor, you're going to help that new member write their first couple of speeches and help them to learn some of the speech writing basics. And in the first level, they've got to get involved with the evaluation, and it's a wonderful, time to help explaining the evaluation role to them and getting them going that way. In the old program, there were people who didn't evaluate at all. They would avoid it for like a year or longer. But the new Pathways program really forces them to get involved with evaluation early, and there's a huge benefit to that. Now, if I'm looking at the big flaw in this training and hearing what some of the comments that you made, the flaw often at the moment is that there's not enough depth in the club in Pathways for people to feel comfortable explaining it. And that's the big hurdle that we need to get over. There's experienced members in the club who are Pathways reluctant. They love the old program. They think it was the greatest thing going, and they're reluctant to get into Pathways. And this is something that with a bit of training, I know that we can help them with. Let me dive into the next piece here. And part of the way that you would do that is you would create a structure in your club for supporting those experienced members who need that Pathways training, and a member who's responsible for coordinating the whole mentorship program. And I'll show you an easy way to do this in a sec if you're thinking, oh no, how are we going to get another person to sign up for this task? I'll show you what I think is a pretty straightforward way to do it. Now, this is a pretty simple structure. A mentorship program in a club needs a mentor coordinator. That's kind of vital. It's just one person who's going to look after the quality of the whole thing. They will also get a basics checklist for mentors, which the division has, or the district has created. And I'll give that to you today. There's a new member survey that Ottawa Toastmasters uses that's brilliant, and you're more than welcome to have it and benefit from it. I'll give you a quick tour of that. And you should align your club educational program to support mentors and proteges the best you can. For example, you should be doing educationals on effective evaluation and educationals on, speech writing basics. And that's the type of thing that supports the mentor and the protege at the same time. And often the mentor coordinator will remind the executive team, hey, there aren't that many new members giving speeches. Can we have an educational on this or that to support the program? Now, the role of the mentor coordinator is pretty straightforward as well. The main thing that they do is every new member that comes into the club, they pair with a mentor. And it isn't something that takes weeks to do. It's done right away. And that way that new member is connected with someone who's starting to show them the ropes right from the beginning. The mentor coordinator also knows where to find the resources that'll support the mentor team. So if you have someone on the team who goes, well, I'm not really clear on how to explain some of this pathway stuff, the coordinator either knows it or says, oh, go and watch this 10-minute mentor program that District 61 has created, and that'll show you how to do it. And I'll give you a quick tour of that also in just a moment. And as I mentioned, the mentor coordinator will remind the executive team to give club educationals that'll best support mentors and proteges. So it's not all work that mentors have to do. It's basically work that the club can help support, and even the area, I think, is a good way to do it. So the structure will look something like this. Now, this is a structure that basically accommodates 10 new members with 5 mentors being looked after by a single mentor coordinator. And, the average club, I think, probably has about 8 new members a year, ideally, to match the, that DCP need, which would mean that 4 members looking after 2 proteges each would work quite well. So you don't need to find 10 volunteers to do this. What you need to do is find the members in your club who would be motivated to do it and take on the role and do the training, and then again create this very positive momentum for new members coming into the club. Now here's the big question: who should be that mentor coordinator, which I alluded to earlier? And in my opinion, it could actually be anyone, but it's best suited to the VP of membership, because the VP of membership welcomes new members into the club. So it's very logical for them to give the new members a membership survey. What is it that you would like to get out of the club? To give them the mentor checklist that I'll show you in just a sec, and to help create some expectations with them and to pair them up with the mentors. And if you have a motivated small group of mentors, it's not that hard to connect new members with them. So like I said, I would recommend that it be the VP membership, but it could also just be another member of the club. At Ottawa Toastmasters, Sahil Dewan, who runs it, is a past president, and he's a very motivated member, but can't really take on an executive role. But he does a brilliant job as the mentor coordinator, and we're so happy to have him on the team doing that. Now, this is the new member survey that I talked about. So I'll give you this document, and you're more than welcome to use it. You're also more than welcome to change it, because it's a Word document that you could adjust to suit your club. And without trying to read the whole thing, it basically gets from the new member who's just signed up what it is that they hope to get out of their Toastmasters experience, what it is that they really want to do, as far as their work-related goals in Toastmasters, what they feel their skill level is, what it is that bothers or concerns them the most, and all of those type of questions. So once this new member survey is filled out, this goes to the assigned mentor. And the mentor will read through it and go, oh, okay, that's what this person is trying to get out of all this. I can orient my comments and I can orient what I do to best help and support that person. And this saves a ton of getting to know you time. And I found this very helpful for actually planning the meetings that I would have with a protege. So I'll give you that document afterwards. And the next one, this comes from the district. It's a checklist for a mentor protege. And there seems to be a lot on this checklist, but a lot of this is actually very overlapping. And don't feel the need to read it. Just know that I'll send you this checklist, and you're more than welcome to play around with it and use it. And this is also a Word document, so you can change it or adjust it if you feel that's a good idea. Now, let's just condense that checklist again so we can, again, focus on these 6 key things. The mentor needs to take the protege through these 6 key learnings to get them going in the club. And it doesn't really matter how they do it. Again, once you read the survey or once you connect with the protege, you're probably going to figure out that they have different priorities. And so you can reorder these in whatever to suit the priorities. For example, I have a meeting tomorrow night with someone who's very keen to write a speech. So I'm going to start with the speech writing and the evaluation basics, and just to get them going there. But a lot of people come in and they're, a little reluctant to dive into the speech writing. And so it'd be logical to have a meeting with them and do a tour of the meeting roles and discuss the expectations and the misconceptions of public speaking, just to get them motivated and inspired to move on to other things. At some point, you have to do a tour of pathways and navigating pathways to help them choose a path. And of course, as I mentioned, a tour of pathways level 1. And all this should happen within the first 2 months of the protege joining the club, the new member joining the club. If it takes too long and drags out, then you lose all kinds of momentum. But the new member coming in, all inspired to create some change in their speaking life, if you time it that way and just do an hour or 30 minutes to an hour every 2 weeks, you'll cover all of these topics within the 2-month time frame. So that's the structure that you can follow. So now when you think about this, it doesn't actually take that long to sit with someone and go through all of these things and then help them to build that very positive momentum that they'll contribute back to the club. So when you think about it, if you could take all new members through level 1 and get them through level 1 in 6 months or 7 months, there'll be all kinds of great changes that start to happen within the club. You'll have all kinds of people involved in the Pathways program. It'll be wonderful for the club to have this richness of people giving speeches all the time. And so, the benefit to the club is huge. And when you're trying to figure out your mentor training, it's basically the same checklist. A mentor can take a look at this list and go, okay, I've done a lot of speeches, so I'm pretty good at some of these things. Maybe I need a little help with, showing someone how to navigate pathways or a tour of pathways, and the mentor coordinator can help them with it. Or, as I mentioned, District 61 is coming up with a package, an educational package, so that you could send a mentor, to the District 61 website to find the thing that they're trying to learn a little bit more of in these 6 topics. The other thing too, and not to neglect, there is a great mentor program in Pathways. The flaw in the program is it doesn't strategize around creating a rich learning environment in your club, but it does help take the mentor through the important ways to develop their mentorship skills. And as probably most of you know, once you complete level 2, this module pops onto your screen, and you get to get involved in the mentoring in any kind of way that you find meaningful. And so for someone new to the club, after they've finished level 2 and they start getting involved with this, then there's an opportunity to maybe help them to become a mentor themselves after hopefully not too much longer, and replenish that mentor pool. Now, the 10-minute mentor program that you heard Tanya mention before, and that I'll get into a little bit more now, is, I think, an ingenious idea that Tanya and her team came up with for how to support the knowledge in those 6 essential bits of learning that we had talked about that a mentor needs to know. And what'll happen is there'll be a 10-minute educational video on the topic posted to YouTube and sent around to all the clubs. So mentor coordinators and mentors can watch, the educational module on the tour of learning, the paths and pathways, for example. And that'll be followed up with a panel discussion a few weeks later. So Tanya's figured out all these panel discussion dates that'll be the follow-up to each one of these topics. And luminaries from the district on whatever the topic happens to be will be there, and mentors can get engaged in the conversation, and mentor coordinators can get engaged in the conversation. And like I say, this is really the essence of what a mentor needs to help a protege with, and all of the learning will come and be supported by the district in these wonderful 10-minute videos on how to do each of these different segments. I'll just give you an example of one that I'm just finishing up. And this is that opening conversation that I talked about, dealing with misconceptions and helping people to understand what they're about to get involved with. And in that talk, there's actually 5 pieces of public speaking wisdom that a mentor could take a protege through just to help them kind of set their expectations. And the first one is always creating that great misconception of public speaking. People come into the club because they have this, different degrees of fear about standing up in front of an audience. And the fear is often comes from the misunderstanding that public speaking is a natural gift that they just don't have. So the reason for the fear, of course, is that when the president of your company asks you to get up and speak in front of everyone, and you think you don't have that gift, it can be a pretty terrifying experience. So what we help the new members to the club realize is that that's actually not true at all. In fact, it's a learned skill that's available to everyone. And the Pathways program and the Toastmasters program is built to help people to develop that learned skill. And if people stick it out long enough, they're going to create a great change in their ability to communicate in front of an audience. Well, this is a pretty vital piece of information. You know, if you don't know that, you can feel uncertainty, you know, for quite a while and even just give up. But when this is made crystal clear from the beginning, just follow the program, stick it out, and after X number of speeches, you are going to notice a great difference. You know, that at least gives people a goal to focus on. The next bit of wisdom in that 10-minute module basically says that the progression path for public speaking is pretty much the same for absolutely everyone. And I would have loved to have known this when I started out, because it sets the expectation of what's going to happen in those first few speeches. And then as you take things a little bit further. So the reality is some people do it a little bit quicker, some people do it a little bit slower, but for the most part, we all follow this progression path in our speaking journey. The first few speeches are about getting past nerves. And as the old manual said, you'll discover skills and talents that you didn't even know you had, which is so true. You learn how to create an interesting and a focused speech. And for many people, it's the first time in their life they're actually writing and creating this way. And it helps people to learn to work with feedback because, of course, in the first level, you get involved with the evaluation aspect of public speaking. Then after speeches 5 to 8, people start to get a little bit calmer in front of a group, and they start to become expressive and give more gestures and facial expressions. You get to be able to focus your topic even better after that little bit of experience. And people slow down, they breathe, they have this great vocal variety that starts to come into play, and they get to play around with their pace. And the thing that I love the most is you actually start see barriers falling and people's personality shining through as they speak, which to me is an incredible change. Now, the reason I would explain this to a new member coming into the club is because I'd say, look, stick it out for 8 speeches and just see what kind of incredible change that creates for you. You know, when people feel overwhelmed from the beginning and they think it's a natural talent that they don't have, you know, a lot of them quit right as soon as they start, you know, before they've even given a couple of speeches or 3 speeches. I think if we kept statistics in the district, the number of people who quit before the first 4 speeches is a very high percentage. And in mentorship, you can combat that by setting expectations just like this. When I gave this presentation, the number 1 comment I got was, "Oh, thank you. Now I know I've got to stick it out for 8 speeches and just see, you know, what kind of transformation that can create." So it gives people, again, a goal to set. And the last piece I would explain to people is that the Toastmasters, the Pathways program is built in a very ingenious way, which is this incremental learning curve. And every project that you do is based on the learning of the previous projects or speeches that you've done. And it's a very clever way to build this great positive momentum in your public speaking skills. And again, typically as you get to about level 3, you start to become a much more comfortable speaker in front of a group. And you're starting to play around with things that are important and of deep interest to you in levels 3, 4, and 5. And by level 5, you basically have become a very capable speaker and you're pretty comfortable in front of a group. And again, when people understand this model, it helps them to understand what's going to happen as they go through their speaking journey. Okay, so that's it for my big spiel on everything. So this is your takeaway challenge, and then we'll head into the Q&A. So if you have any questions on any aspect of the presentation, we'll dive into it. First thing you should do is organize a mentor coordinator. Figure out the person in your club who's going to be willing to take on that role and take on the challenges of doing it, and to do it in an inspiring way and not just as another task. Then that mentor coordinator will pair all new members with mentors as soon as they join the club. You get to use that checklist and the survey, which again will support these early days of new members in the club. And you can follow the 10-minute mentor training that will actually launch next month, and focus on the value and the possibilities rather than just this is just another thing to add on to your list. So let's go into the Q&A. I'll just finish with this Ralph Smedley quote. And if you're looking for my email address, now's the time to write it down. I can send it to you in the chat as well. It's scottminnis@rogers.com. And if there's anything you want, any aspect of this presentation that you'd like me to help support, I'm more than happy to do that. Just send me an email or get in touch with me at Ottawa Toastmasters, and I'll be happy to help you launch your mentorship program. So this is my favorite Ralph Smedley quote, that we work together to bring out the best in each other. And in every amazing club that I've been a part of, it's this unique Toastmasters dynamic that is so inspiring to be a part of and to watch, and something that the mentorship program will help you to create in every one of your clubs. So let me stop the share. And please feel free to put up your hand and unmute and ask questions. So Sanjeev, go ahead.
Yeah, Scott, very interesting what you talked about, understanding people's goals. So one of the two things that thoughts that came to my mind were, one was that, and we see that in advanced speakers, that members who've been in Toastmasters for 10, 20, 30 years, even those members are looking for mentors. It never stops. So we got to keep that in mind as well, that's how you keep those members. A second thing is, some members are looking for specific things that they want to be mentors on. It may be speech writing, maybe evaluations, or maybe just adding humor to the speech. So as part of the mentor program, it's got to be flexible enough to have specific pairings that we are challenged to find sometimes. But even new members come and say, I just want to be able to do toast, or I want to be able to do only this.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yep,
I completely get that. The one thing that I would say about that, though, is that it's vital that a club starts this basic program first and get good at it, because if it becomes too abstract, then it'll dissolve into nothing. So the whole secret to what I was talking about tonight is there are a few things that you absolutely have to do those few things, and then see where that takes your club.
Yes.
But keep it simple.
Yeah, great foundation. So if you use a raise feature, the raise hand feature, I can just sequence everybody's.
Sure. So we're on. So I unshared my screen. I can see
Yeah.
everybody now.
Okay. Oh,
Any
just raise your hands.
Comments or question? Raise your hand. Go ahead. You got to have comments and questions.
Okay, Karen. Was that clapping or raise hand?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong one.
Okay.
That's okay. Clapping's fine too.
That's fine.
Right? One of the things that we do at our club, which came out of District 45, out of one of the clubs in Maine, is we do a form up that's the first 90 days in Toastmasters. And it takes a Toastmaster through everything. So when we developed our mentorship program this year, we form that you can take and edit and make to fit your own clubs, depending on how your clubs work. Because what we found was there was no basic information that it all together. So what's the executive do? What's each one of the roles during the meetings? How do I go about signing up for a meeting? Each one of us use programs. And so what we sort of did was create this 90-day program so that you could send out to the mentees. The other thing that we send to the mentees, a timer sheet and the instructions on how to be a timer. So all those basic roles, the counter, anything that's specific, keeping any tally on during a meeting, we developed forms that we sent out to people so that they have those. So if it's like somebody says, well, timer, but I don't really know how to go about doing it. What information do I collect? Well, it's all there in little boxes. You just go down through and follow through your meeting and the information's there. So that might be helpful to members or to any one of you guys.
This brings up a really key point too, is that We hear about how people it's too much work and they're getting burned out or whatever, but chances are anything that you're looking for has been done. So if you're looking for a summary of the meeting roles, you don't have to redo them. Connect with people. You'll be more than welcome to send me the request, and I'll send you links to clubs who do it. And you can basically just take the information and share it. That's why it's out there, is to support everybody else. So don't feel
Our
the need
club
to reinvent.
Sears is like one
Yep.
of the oldest clubs. What we found, well, we're 65. So what we found was that there was no information culminated all together.
You would
Go
be
here, go there, go here,
surprised.
go there. People don't have time.
Exactly.
Culminate it
So
all together and make it one document so that they can just go, here it is. Let's review over it. And then the mentor and the mentee can work together under.
yeah, totally. Thanks, Karen. Anybody else?
Francine has a hand
Francine,
raised.
go ahead.
Yes. There is a tool as well that Toastmasters International has created. It's the new member orientation. It's already a presentation, has I think maybe 60 something slides. What I did is that I took it and I just kept and rearranged the slides that were pertinent for the nature or culture of our own club. And every time we have a certain amount of guests, I give that presentation, and it goes through the roles, officers, like everything pretty much in detail. And it's a good incentive for attracting new members as well. And this way, mentors who already have mentees can delve even more. So I just think it's a great tool that very few are using.
Yeah, thanks. That's where that survey came from.
Ah.
Somebody took their survey and rewrote it to fit the club's needs.
Yeah.
And, that's the important thing. Again, don't reinvent, steal from the best and adjust it to your club's needs. Any other questions?
I think I have question. When you talk about educationals, on speech writing and all that. So I think that's one of the key, isn't it? That you have to do them regularly, and not just once. You have to keep doing them because it's a good reinforcement to keep doing those educationals.
Yeah, we did. So the reason for the 10-minute mentor program is we've covered a lot of this information in other online content, but it could be a 1-hour workshop on writing a speech. And a lot of people find the 1 hour daunting, but it's been a great challenge for me to try to take the essence of the information and put it into 10 minutes and then try to express it that way. Cause it's like, 10 minutes is doable. An hour, I don't know. Anyway, it's a pretty cool way to learn. And again, you're getting the priority instead of all the fluff.
So we have Brian next and then Julie.
Yeah, sure. Brian, go ahead.
So in my club, we just started up the mentorship program, and we have the VP education, who's the coordinator, since they mainly deal with the pathways program. So
are you the VP education?
No, I'm the VP, I'm president.
Okay. Can I give you one piece of advice?
Sure.
Don't give it to the VP ed. The poor VP ed is the most overworked executive on the team if they're doing their job properly. And to add one more thing to their realm can make it an overwhelming task. That's why I thought the VP membership or even the secretary is a pretty logical choice, because their role is less labor intensive. And for them to work in concert with the VP ed on doing this is a big help to the VP ed. Anyway, that's my advice if you don't want to burn out your poor VP ed.
Okay. Well, he hasn't really opposed to taking on this role, so I think it should be fine. But
Brian,
what
you will meet this personality type in Toastmasters. It's the, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do that. And suddenly they're doing 100 things. Sue, not if you're acknowledging I'm correct. Exactly. There are lots of people that won't say no, but it doesn't mean it's the most efficient way to run something. You need to spread the work, or as the number one comment we heard before is people burn out. And they do burn out with all kinds of good intentions, but they burn out anyway. So as the president, when you can spread that work between your executive team, you're going to create a huge win.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Okay,
Julie?
Julie?
Hi, I'm from Transport Canada.
Oh, I love
Toastmasters.
those guys. Haven't been there in a long time. That's such a great club.
And our VP Ed, Jean-Francois,
Yep.
he actually is heading the mentorship program.
I'll
I
talk
think
to him later.
he might be burnt out. He does so much. But one suggestion he told us was to be a mentor, you just need to be a little bit more experienced than the person your mentee. And that's how he hooked me in, because otherwise I wouldn't have done it. But I said, okay, yeah, all right, I'll do it.
It's true. I mean, when you're in a great club, you want to contribute back. What my recommendation would be is that someone be at least to the end of level 2, or hopefully the beginning of level 3, before they mentor other people. But I agree, just being a few steps ahead really is enough, if that's the only way it's going to end up working. Yeah, that's a good tip.
We haven't discussed this in our club yet, but I was thinking that when a new member joins, assign someone to them. It might not be the official mentor, but just assign someone to them to introduce everything right away, because they might be a little lost and confused. And if someone is there to guide them right away, it'll be more encouraging.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's usually, like I said, it's usually the VP membership who does that transition.
Oh,
And it's a great, that's you? Congratulations. You are you're a very important player in this. Okay, yeah, I'll talk to Jean-Francois about not taking on so much, but I appreciate that he does it. He's such a great guy. He's also the president of Advanced Speakers. He's probably doing about 15 things at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to burn him out too badly.
The one thing I'm realizing that I can't do because I don't have the power is to share those 2 files that I wanted to. So I'll have to figure out a way to do that.
Okay. Scott?
Yep. Can you do that?
Okay, sorry, I can, you want to share what?
No, go ahead. What did you have a question?
I just had a question. One of the things that I want to see myself is that whenever we're doing these programs or any kind of a mentoring, to have some kind of a results, sharing, lessons learned, so that as we move forward and improve our own programs in our clubs, we find out through doing what is working and what is not working and why.
Yeah.
And so that's also very important, and not just leave 2 people to pair and then do nothing more than that, because you never know what's happening then.
I didn't do Tanya's great idea any service by not going deeper into it. So she will have these panel discussions, 6 panel discussions over the next 6 months. And that's exactly a great place for people to participate and discuss and work through any complications in what they're doing in any aspect of the mentoring program, really. Liz, can I ask you where District 35 is? Are you there, Liz?
Yes, we are in Wisconsin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah, Todd, what's his last name? Gateman?
Gatien.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been he belongs to DJAB, so he came to a area
Oh, that's cool.
meeting, and we came to your you had one on hybrid, so we've been zooming up for the last couple of weeks, and I was at your French conference.
I think Todd's girlfriend is in Wisconsin, isn't she?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I think she
There's
is.
the connection.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
yeah.
a connection.
Any other questions before we do our wrap up? I want to be mindful of the time. I'm going to have to get Tanya to send those documents in the next, she has all your emails through the sign up and registration. So rather than you all giving me your email, I'll get her to send the 2 documents. Just read through them. They're fabulous. The checklist is, it just simplifies everything. And that mentor survey or the new member survey is a brilliant way, to get people going.
In case, Scott, I think what you didn't notice that Tanya has posted some links in the chat for the mentoring resources in the district website.
Oh, perfect. So we'll
please
get
take a look.
those.
Yeah.
We'll get those posted on the resources. She has one of them, but she doesn't have the other.
Yeah.
Well, all right, everyone. Like I said, the real secret to this is to keep it as simple as possible and to focus on only the high priority things that you need to do. And, that's the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do creates 80% of the results. And if you try to do everything, it's not going to work out. But if you can focus on the priorities, or you can network with people who have experience in the thing that you're trying to figure out, and they'll help you focus on the priorities, then you can create all kinds of incredible positive momentum in the club that you'll love the results of, because you'll just see these, new members flourishing, which is what the game's all about. That adds all kinds of richness and sets the foundation for everything else to fall into place. You won't be spending your executive meetings figuring out how to retain members and how to, satisfy your new members. You'll be talking more about, here's how we're going to improve this program, and here's how we're going to inspire our new members in our mentorship aspect. So the truth of the matter is, when you run a good, solid mentorship program, it will actually save you time and energy, because you'll be focused on the thing that builds that great positive momentum in the club. And you're not going to be, trying to figure out how to, save or deal with all the problematic pieces that are the fallout of not having that kind of aspect of the club. Karen, did you have one more question you wanted to throw in there? We only have a
Wanted to
minute.
comment on the moments of truth, because
sure.
Sanjay had mentioned about how do you know whether it's working or not working in the club. And Toastmasters has the moment program, which is it's a massive presentation that you do at the club level. You need to book out sort of your entire meeting in order appropriately, but it does take you through and have feedback from current members, new members, senior members, people who are coming strictly from the legacy, wanting to go into the pathways program. So all this sort of obstacles are met there in that one presentation, but you do need to plan in your educational program in order to do that.
Yep, I agree. Listening to Harry Kingston give that presentation was one of the transformational moments in my whole Toastmasters experience. He was brilliant at it. He knew it so well, and he delivered it so beautifully. I think it had this incredible positive ripple effect to everybody that was there that day. Okay, well, at some point we're just going to zip away like Harry Potter. Like I said, the challenge will be try to go to those 10-minute mentor talks, because they're really cool and it's such a neat way to do it. And if you can, try to attend some of those panel discussions, and you'll see, like I said, Tanya came up with this idea with her team. I think it's such a cool way to finally get the mentorship programs to focus on the same things. So every club isn't reinventing it. Every mentor isn't reinventing it. Here's the standard, here's what you need to do. And like I said, if you didn't write down my email address, you can find me at Ottawa Toastmasters. And I'm always happy to support any aspect of the mentorship program that you are working on, or any questions that come up. Or if you have a question that occurs to you later, then please feel free to ask me. Happy to get email. I'm sitting at home all day. I love answering my Toastmasters email.
Well, it was a great presentation.
Thanks, Francine.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much. District 61, I'll tell you, thanks so much for all your help this year.
Well, we've loved being able to connect with other districts. It's been such a cool thing